Okay, so this video is going to be about my vape convention experience. I went to VCC in Pittsburgh. Well, it's technically, I guess, yesterday, but for me it's still today because it's still like the same day. Like I woke up and I'm still awake, if it makes any sense. Anyway, there is going to be some fangirling or talking about fangirling. So at that certain point, you might not want to might want to quit watching. I don't know if that bothers some people, but whatever. It's part of the experience, and I was gonna do this, I think, tomorrow, but technically by the time you see this, tomorrow's episode will have already happened. So I'll probably upload this maybe Monday or Wednesday. I'm not really sure. But I wanted to talk about my vape convention experience while it was still fresh in my mind, while the energy was still kind of here. I did film like a little clip while I was in the car, like about to come home, because I did the whole trip in a day, which I'll get to the beginning of the trip in a minute. But I don't know if that clip came out well. I haven't been able to look at it because it's actually on a camera, and I need to find the cord, the USB cord that will extract and let me view the video. I guess I could probably watch it on the camera itself. I forgot that it does that. But anyway, if it came out well, I'll probably insert that somewhere. But yeah, I was like super excited because I literally just left, and a specific reason I'll get into later. So anyway, get into the beginning of the trip, and I'm not trying to be like negative or whatever. I just feel like it kind of, number one, creates like an atmosphere and sets the story plot or whatever. And it also shows like a contrast of how a not so good day can turn out to be amazing. So first of all, I slept like shit, and I still kind of feel better now that I've bathed, but I don't know. I got like a really sore throat. I don't know if it's just from vaping a lot or talking a lot. I'm not really sure, but like, anyway, I don't want to bitch about that, but I'm just not feeling that great, and probably partially due to me not sleeping very well. So I already had that going in. Then I go to leave, which I left a little bit later than I wanted to, and someone's parked behind me to where I can't get out. And the person that parked behind me drives a stick shift. I can't drive stick shift. I've tried to have people teach me, and they fucking don't. So I still don't know how to do it. So I had to have someone move it, try to wake up my dad. He wasn't budging. So I had to wake up my brother, which I felt really bad about because he had probably just went to bed. And it's really not his responsibility to move the car. But unfortunately, he was like the only one that could do it that was responded. So he moved it. Then I start driving, hit a bunch of construction. It was fucking ridiculous. And my tire sensors kept going off. First, my tire pressure was too low. Then I was getting a fault message. I don't know if it's because it was so hot and I was driving longer than I normally do, but it kept going off, especially when I'd be driving for long amounts of time. I noticed the sensor would kick on, and it did it on the way home, not as quickly as it did before, which it was substantially cooler on the way home. So I don't know if it was a heat thing or what it was, but it was freaking me out. So then I had to pull over. I had to pull over 2 different times on exits to check my tires. Luckily, I have one of those portable tire pressure things that you can, it's like a tire inflator. There's like a word for it. I can't think of it right now. Like a compressor. No, a compressor would compress. It's just like a portable tire inflator for your car, and it hooks up to your like the cigarette lighter jack or whatever. So luckily I had that, and I don't know, it was just a thing. And then it took so much longer, like an hour longer, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're planning for 2 hours and it turns into 3, it's really annoying on top of everything. So it was just a clusterfuck. Then I finally get to downtown Pittsburgh, and my fucking GPS wouldn't tell me which exit to take to actually get to the convention. So I had to guess, and I, of course, guessed the wrong one. And I had to go a roundabout way to get back to the convention. Luckily, I found it, like, once I got turned around in the right direction. But it was just a fucking clusterfuck. Then I get to the convention, and I'm still lost because it's a massive building and there's lots of different sections. There's wings of them. It's just like, and there was no signs anywhere. So in my defense, there was no signs for the convention center at all, at least from the direction I was coming. And then I get to the convention, there's no signs for the vape convention. So it was just a clusterfuck. I ended up walking around the whole building, well, the whole half of the building, because it was split into like two. And then only to find out that it was right across from where I had originally started walking. So, I mean, I got some exercise and, you know, obviously I need it. So I guess that's fine. It was just really hot and it was just so frustrating. So anyway, I finally get inside and then I'm looking for Addie. And, you know, when you meet somebody in person, they usually look at least a little bit different than they do, especially, you know, you're dealing with a camera, especially a web camera over the internet. It's just weird. So I wasn't really 100% sure if I'd even be able to find him because, I don't know, it's just weird. So I get in there and I thought this guy was him, but I'm like, I'm not really sure. And I don't want to just walk up to some random person and have it not be him. And then I look like an idiot. So I started walking around. Short of long, we ended up finding each other. And he actually was the person I thought he was, like standing in the front of the thing. So I walked around for nothing, but whatever. So I finally meet him and, you know, it was just like great. And, you know, we talked a little bit and then he's like, oh, did you see your buddy? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I thought he was being sarcastic. Like I thought somebody that I didn't like was there. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like pointing and I'm like looking around and I'm like, what are you doing? And finally, oh my God, this is where the fangirl starts. Okay. I didn't know he was going to be there. There was talk about him being there. I knew Grim Green was going to be there. Ruby Roo was supposed to be there. Matt and Vanessa from Suck My Mob were supposed to be there. Sean Understudy from Plumes of Hazard was there. I knew all those people were going to be there. But this person, I heard may be there. But whenever I hear somebody may be somewhere, I just assume that they're not going to be there. So I honestly did not expect. So I see Phil Basardo, okay? Now, if y'all know me, like some of y'all, you know that is my dude. That, I'll try to take the fangirl out for a minute. He's honestly, I'm pretty sure he was the first vape reviewer I ever watched. And we're talking like 6 years ago. I've been vaping a long fucking time, especially compared to most people that you see. Like, you know, they're doing it for like a year or two. Like, fucking 6 years. Like, it's been a long time. And that's a long time to watch somebody like on YouTube or really anywhere. But he was one of the first people I started watching. And, you know, Grim Green, he's also one of the first people. But I'm almost positive Phil was the first person that I watched because, and I could be wrong, but I've heard that Grim Green has actually been doing reviews longer than Phil. And I thought it was strange because I always thought it was the other way around because I had been watching Phil longer. So anyway, whatever. So my, like, Addie laughed at me, but like he saw my face light up when I'm like, oh my God. So he was like standing in front of us, but like, because like we were in the back of the little area, like where the tables were, and he was towards where the booths for like the vaping places just started. Because like it was a weird layout. It was actually even smaller than Detroit, which I thought was odd. So I imagined it was going to be like a huge event, but it honestly wasn't. And again, for me, going to these conventions is not really about the convention itself. It's about the people that I'm meeting there. That's the important thing. And it definitely was amazing, but like the actual convention itself, nah. And there was a lot of space, which I wasn't really expecting. I was expecting it to be packed, which, you know, I guess it's good because I don't really like being crammed and like elbow to elbow with people. There was actually less people there than Detroit, which again, I was surprised. But I don't know what the deal was with that. I don't know if it was the timing or what, but neither here nor there. There was like a direct shot of him, but it was like a lot of space between us. So I'm just like, oh my God. So like I start blushing. Like I could feel myself blushing. Like, I don't know if guys really blush. I mean, I think they do a little bit, but it's not as obvious as it is with women where you can see like, cause I have red undertone. Well, I don't know if it's undertone. Like, I get red easily. Like, I always have like a little bit of redness in my face just naturally. So like when I get embarrassed or like flustered, I get really fucking red. So I could feel just the flustering, like, anyway. So I was just like, oh my God. So Addie went over there and, because, Phil was already talking to somebody else and was just like, when you get a moment, can you come over to our table? Because, you don't want to be rude and just like interrupt and be like, hey, like whatever. So, Phil's like, okay, yeah. And, I love Phil, obviously, but like, he can talk, okay? Like, if you've watched his videos, you know this. Like, he has like 45-minute and longer videos. And I'm no one to talk because obviously I can sit here and talk to myself for like hours on end. So it's not like a bashing. It's just fact. Like, he can talk. So like, we waited a minute before he came, and I don't know if he remembered to come back or if Addie waved him over, but eventually he waved him over. But anyway, so take the dial the fangirl back for a minute. So Addie, it was me, Addie Tooney. There's two Addies and a Gaddy, I guess. I'm not sure what the Gaddy thing is about. I don't know if it's like a shortened name or what, but it was me, Addie Tooney, Dear Addie, and then his friend Gaddy. And we were all sitting at this one table. And of course, me and Addie Tooney are doing most of the talking amongst us. And because honestly, I don't know Dear Addie all that well. And I hope I didn't come across as rude. That's not my intention. I'm really shy around new people that I don't really know. And I've only done like a couple shows where Addie's been there. So it's like, no offense if you happen to be watching this. No offense at all. It's just, Addie's actually too many Addies. Addie Tooney was who introduced me to Fresh. And I've known Fresh for, I think we figured it out to be 10 months. It's either 10 or 11 months. It's getting close to the year mark because I think the first show that we did together was in October of last year. So it was either October, no, it was August. I'll have to look. I don't know. But it was like sometime in like the fall. And I knew Addie prior to that because he'd watch my videos. He'd comment on my videos and stuff like that. So I've known Addie actually longer than any of them, like indirectly. Like obviously when Fresh had him come on the show, then I got to know him even better because I don't know, there's just something about a face-to-face and talking that's different than just typing to somebody. But, I knew him longer. So naturally, I'm going to be more comfortable and talking the most with him. So I don't know. That's what I was doing. So we were talking and Addie, he has this like fucking backpack full of shit. Like he literally looked like he was going on like a mountain climb. This big old backpack. And then he had some other sacks with him too. So like he was like loaded up with just stuff. I don't know why he had so much stuff. I didn't ask. I thought, that's his business, but like he had a lot of shit with him. So he's like pulling out stuff and like I'm trying juice. I got to try Heavy's line, the heavy metal vape line. So I'll talk about that probably tomorrow, maybe, or should I talk about it now? I guess I'll just talk about it now. I thought about doing this whole thing tomorrow, but the thing is, I plan on doing a juice review in the beginning of the video tomorrow. And I don't know, I just don't want it to be too jumbled or, I don't know, too many things going on at once. So maybe I will do that tomorrow. Yeah, I'll keep like the juice reviews separate. I will say, just briefly though, that I did get to try the ravioli e-liquid from Giancarlo. I don't know why his name's so hard for me to say. I don't know why. But to find out whether or not I like it, well, you would have probably seen it before now. So I guess that doesn't matter. I was going to do like a spoiler or like teaser or whatever, but since the sequence is going to be fucked up, so it won't really be a teaser. I actually ended up liking it. Go fucking figure. So anyway, so me and Addie are talking, and I was just like talking about the craziness of getting there, and just talking about a whole bunch of stuff. And he had me try some juices. He ended up giving me some juices. He gave me a mod, which I'm so upset about it. I'm fucking so upset about it. I'm afraid to say something because I just feel fucking terrible about it. I am so fucking, like, sometimes I really question myself. Like, even my dad, he's kind of alluded to the fact that I do some really fucking stupid shit. Because, I mean, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I know I'm above average intelligence. It's just, it's not even a opinion, it's a fact. Like, it's statistically, like, I've taken tests to prove it. But you wouldn't know that by some of the shit that I do. It's just fucking stupid, and I couldn't believe I did what I did, which I'll probably confess to Sunday. I guess it'd be a good time to confess on Sunday, since, you know, that's the time that normal people do, or religious people do. I don't know. Anyway, way off topic as usual. So me and Addie are talking a while, and just, you know, just talking, and it was nice. And then finally, I guess one way or another, Phil ended up coming over. I'm pretty sure Addie just, like, kind of, like, waved to him, because you got to understand, and I'm sure you probably do, you know, people know Phil, especially if you're at a vape convention. If you're at a vape convention and you don't know who the fuck Phil Basardo is, then I don't know what you're doing. I mean, maybe you just don't watch YouTube. I guess if you don't watch YouTube, you wouldn't know. But, like, you're more than likely going to know who he is if you care enough to go to a vape convention. So he's getting pulled in, like, 5 billion different directions. So when you're talking to somebody, sometimes you forget shit. So, I don't know. Addie was a gracious guest, or host, and he knew I really wanted to meet him. So, like, he waved him over, because I guess Addie and Phil, you know, they talk a little bit, so they already kind of know each other. But, like, obviously I don't. The most I've talked to him is me commenting on his videos and him replying. But so, like, he calls him over, and I'm just, like, freaking out, like, inside. And I try not to be too obnoxious, because I know if I were, like, somebody that was, like, well known, it would be awkward to me to have someone, like, because, like, I've had, like, literally a couple people know who I was, like, when I would be at a vape convention. And luckily they weren't, like, it wasn't super awkward or anything, but it's still kind of, like, I don't know the word for it. It's just, like, not odd, but, like, that's, like, the best word I can think about it, or think of to describe it. It's just, it's confusing, I guess. I don't know. So, I know if someone was, like, freaking out, like, in my presence, like, just, like, being obnoxious, it would probably, in the back of my mind, maybe annoy me. I don't know. Anyway, so I was just trying to, like, contain myself. So he comes over, and Eddie's like, you know, hey, like, whatever. And then he's like, he's like, I wanted to introduce you to somebody. And, like, at this time, because, like, we were sitting in the table, and when Phil came over, obviously we both stood up, because that's just manners. So, like, we were standing up, and Addie's like, yeah, I want to introduce you to somebody. And I'm like, oh my God. So he's like, yeah, here's, you know, this is my friend Rin, you know, she's I forget what he said, something about, oh my God, I can't even think right now because I'm, like, flustered about it. Something about amazing mixtress or something like that, or an expert mixtress, like, you know, because I DIY. And I'm like, oh my God, you're really gonna introduce me to fucking Phil Basardo? I was like, don't do that. Like, I'm nobody. Like, I'm not worthy. Like, seriously. So he's like, whatever. And I'm blushing, because I'm like, I can't believe you just, like, did that. And, you know, it's Phil Basardo. So I'm just like humbled. And Phil's like, oh, you know, hi, nice to meet you. And because, like, he had already, like, shook hands with Addie, and, like, he started to reach out to, like, shake my hand. He's like, no. And he, like, he gives me a hug, and I'm like, oh my God, a hug. So anyway, I was, like, excited about that. And then we ended up taking a picture, and then he actually sat down, like, in between me and Addie. I was talking for, like, a while, and I I admitted to him that he was my vape crush, and he seemed to kind of get a kick out of that, but it was just like crazy. It was fucking crazy. And but he was like super, super, super nice, like amazing. Like he's I forget what I talk about because I'm so jargled, whatever. Since I might be repeating myself, we'll just put it this way. You know, a lot of other people know that I had a big thing for a wrestling superstar. I'm not even gonna name him. Huge thing for him for forever. And he's kind of got a reputation for being an asshole. So I would always be like so afraid to meet him in real life, because like there's been opportunity. He's done like a couple signings, not like super often, because back when I liked him, he was a heel and really nobody liked him. So he really didn't do like a lot of that kind of stuff, especially around here. But like I've had opportunities to like go and like signings and stuff, and it's like no, sometimes you just don't meet your idols because there's just so much room for disappointment. And part of the problem is you putting them on such a high pedestal, especially not really knowing them personally. But and then otherwise, or on the other hand, that you could just be an asshole, and he definitely wasn't. But like everyone was super nice, so skip past that for a minute. So like a lot of it was just honestly sitting and talking, and then eventually I did get up because they had already been around, because they had been at the convention early because they had the passes, and they'd already seen all the booze and everything, and Dear Eddie had picked up a few things. So I did say that I did want to walk around and just check things out. I honestly didn't really look at the juices because I just, number one, I don't need any more fucking juice. And two, I feel like every time I pay money for a juice that isn't like Dawn's, obviously, that I'm disappointed. It's like nearly every time, even if I test them out at like a vape shop, I just, for whatever reason, they'll taste good at the vape shop, and then I get them home and there's just something off about it. Like, I did like this, but for some reason it was much better when I was testing it. And I'm not really sure why. I don't know if it's something, maybe I really hate to say that it's all bad batches, because it's like, what is the chance that every single juice I buy at a fucking vape shop is a bad batch? Like, come on now. There really statistically is no chance that that's possible. So it's got to be something. But this really is a bad example of that, because I actually do still like this, even though it seemed to be better when I vaped it firsthand. But like I was talking to Addie, like Jazzy Boba, for instance. Jazzy Boba I liked quite a bit when I was vaping at the shop. I get it home and I'm trying to vape it here, and it's just like, it's not bad. It's just like, why did this taste so much better at the shop? Like, are they airing it out? Is it from being aired out because people are testing it so much? Like, but I've let juice sit way after the fact, hoping that it would get better by sitting or whatever. I've left the cap off, whatever. It doesn't fucking fix it. That Laffy Taffy, the Taffy Man or whatever it is, the grape one, that's actually a good example of that. It tasted bomb in the store because it reminded me of that grape bubblegum. I get it home and it's like, who put Dimetap in my e-liquid? Like, this tastes like fucking medicine. Like, what happened? And it just pisses me off. And I don't like wasting money. I try not to do that. I'm pretty frugal, as they call it. So I don't know. I just didn't really look at really any juices. So yeah, I looked at hardware. I did buy a couple things. I probably will get into that tomorrow. Unfortunately, the one thing that I have, you will have seen what had happened to it. And I feel like shit because I literally just got it today and never even got to use it. So yeah, not happy about that. So yeah, anyway, after all that, I did get to meet, the first person I actually met was Ruby Roo. I met her because Addie called her over. She was walking around doing, she was like filming or something. And he called her over, and she was nice and talked briefly. It wasn't anything long-winded or anything, but she's nice. Like, she seems cool. Like, she'd be awesome to just hang out with, like, have drinks with, just chill. But I didn't really get to talk too much, which, I mean, when you don't really know somebody, like, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. It's kind of awkward. Plus, again, she was being pulled and she was doing something. So she talked briefly, you know, shook my hand, all that good stuff. But, you know, she had shit to do. So she was the first person I met. Then I met Phil. And then I did get to meet Grim Green. Again, kind of brief. Again, it was just awkward because it's like, what are you talking about? I don't know. You know, I mentioned that he was on Fresh's show because I feel like when you have some kind of common ground or something in common, something that ties you together outside of vaping, obviously, that it makes you a little bit more familiar, so it's not as awkward. It's like, oh, you know my friend who, blah, blah, blah. So it makes it a little less like, oh, like, really, like, hey, but that's it. So anyway, you know, I did mention, like, hey, you were on Fresh's show, that's my friend, like, whatever. And he's like, oh, yeah. But anyway, he was a nice guy, just not very talkative. But again, not really much to say when you don't know somebody. But it was cool to meet him because, again, I've been watching his videos for many years, almost as long as Phil's. And that's something big to me because there's a lot of people that I had started out watching back then that I don't watch anymore just because, you know, I'm not going to get into the reasons why because I don't want to really bash anybody, but it stopped it's suiting my taste, I guess. But anyway, so met him briefly, got my gear, I bought a few things, and then I don't know, I'd only been there for like maybe 3 hours, but honestly there wasn't a whole lot to look at. Plus Dear Addy and his friend, they were leaving anyway, and Addy Tooney was ready to leave because I guess he was going to his friends for dinner. Plus they closed at like around 7 anyway, and it was getting close. It was like 6:45, so, you know, we were leaving. So on the way towards like the door, he stopped over to talk to Ruby again. I forget what they were talking about, something specific. And then Ruby just happened to be over by where Phil was. Phil was talking to, you know, a group of other people. So I'm like, oh my God. So like we come over there and Phil like notices that it's me again. He's like smiling because he knows like I'm the Vape Crush girl, and he like puts his arm around me and everything. It was just like funny, but he's like so nice. And Addy, he introduced me to Matt from Suck My Mod, which Matt and I had been on Fresh's show just like maybe a week or so ago, so I kind of informally met him that way, so that wasn't as awkward. Just like, oh hey, like I'd seen you just a little bit ago, and that was about it. It wasn't like a lot of talking there. And then Addy introduced me to his wife. His wife is fucking gorgeous. Like, she's pretty on camera, but she's even prettier in person. And she seemed nice as well. Again, it was awkward. Hers was probably the most awkward because it's like we like don't know each other at all. But she was really nice, and I was still standing in between her and Phil. So I was still next to Phil, so I was still okay with that. And so that was that. And I'm just like standing there the whole time, and just like Phil's like right here, and I'm just like, oh my God. And then I was like ready to leave, and I thought about like turning around and saying goodbye, since it was kind of awkward because like I was standing there talking, and then I got pulled to be introduced to this person, and then I just leave. So I didn't want to be rude, but at the same time, it's like, number one, does he really give a shit if I just leave? Because I'm not the type of person, I don't assume people give a shit. And it's not to say that there's anything wrong with them, or there's something like they're being an ass or whatever. I just don't assume things. So it's like, or if I do assume things, I assume the opposite. Like, they don't give a shit. So like, plus the second thing is like, it's awkward. It's like, hey, like I'm leaving. Like, I know you don't really know me, but hey, I'm leaving. So I was just like getting ready to leave. So like we start walking towards the door, and I feel like something touched my arm, and I'm like, I kind of like almost ignored it first. I don't know. I don't remember if I ignored it or not, but like at the same time, Addy's like, wait, look. So he's like pointing, and I turn, and it's Phil. And he's like, hey, he's like, are you leaving? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you're leaving like for good or whatever? He's like, are you coming back? I'm like, no. And he's like, you're really gonna leave without saying goodbye? And I'm like, oh my God. So like, oh my God, it was just like, it was crazy. And then I got another hug. I actually got 2 more hugs. So I got a total of 4 hugs and 2 arms on the shoulder. Yeah, so that was crazy to me. It was crazy. It happened so quick because I was only there 3 hours. Like even Detroit, and I know I keep bringing up Detroit, but it's the only other vape convention I've been to, so it's really my only matter of comparison. So it's like, I don't know. Detroit, I was there technically from Thursday to Sunday, but I didn't actually do anything vape related until Friday. And even being there Friday, like all day Friday and then all Saturday, and then I did leave Sunday. Like I did have breakfast and stuff with them, but I left pretty early, like around, it was noon or 1. Still went by really quickly, and that's over days of, periods of days. This was literally like 3 hours. Like all of this happened in 3 hours. So it was like, it was crazy. It was fucking crazy. And it was fun. I'm glad I went. I was kind of questioning things as I was driving up there and all this fucking bullshit was happening. I even contemplated just fucking turning around and going back home. But at that point, I was already like, because the thing is I don't know if it was my GPS was fucking up or the construction was fucking it up, but that trip was supposed to take, even according to the GPS, 2 hours. And I know that like if it there's traffic and stuff like that, it's going to delay that to some extent. But it was like, I would go like for 20 minutes and I swear like the estimated time would be more than what it was 20 minutes ago, even when traffic wasn't backed up. So it's like, what the fuck is going on? It seemed like I was getting absolutely nowhere, and it was pissing me off because I'm a very impatient person, and I like things to be the way that they are supposed to be. So if I'm supposed to be there in 2 hours, I want to be there in 2 hours, or I'm going to be pissed. And it literally took at least 3 hours. And it was nuts. And then my tires were fucking up, and I'm like, are you serious? So it was just like a bunch of bullshit. So I was actually thinking about just like coming home, but I was like, no, because like I was worried something was wrong with my car. My car, it's getting older. It's like 7 years old, and I know it needs brakes. And my tires have always had something wonky with them. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I don't know. I was just worried about breaking down in the middle of nowhere. I literally know nobody near Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania, nowhere down in that area. So it's like, what am I gonna do if I'm stuck down here? So I was like, but I just pushed forward, tried to keep it calm. I'm actually really surprised I didn't have a panic attack, because as much as I used to love traveling, ever since I got into like a minor car accident, like a lot of things like road trip related or like driving long distance, I get panicky like super quickly, like the slightest thing, and I will just start panicking. And yeah, so I'm surprised that I didn't, but it's a good thing I didn't. But anyway, that's really about it. I just wanted to do this now while it was still, like I said, fresh in my head, like the day of, because like I feel like even tomorrow, plus I feel like tomorrow I'll be probably talking about a lot of other shit, so it'll be way too long if I try to get all this out and then all that out in the same video. And I know some people like to watch super long videos, but most people don't. Most people, according to my statistics, watch about 6 minutes and then that's it, which is fine. I mean, whatever floats your boat. But yeah, 3 hours or something like that. I don't know if anybody wants to see that shit. But I had a really good time. It was really nice meeting Addie Tooney, of course. I felt very just at ease with him. Like, I've mentioned this many times that I'm very shy, and I don't even think it's so much antisocial as non-social. There's actually a difference between antisocial and non-social, or unsocial is what it's called. Because I didn't even know unsocial was a word. Like, I had to look that shit up. Because I kind of thought, like, I thought I invented that shit. I just thought it one day. I'm like, I'm unsocial because I'm just not social. And, but no, it's actually a word, like a legitimate word or term. And it describes someone like me. Because antisocial is like, I guess to better describe it would be, or to describe it best would be to pull it up. Call it a personality disorder. Shit. Contrary to the laws and customs of society, devoid of or antagonistic to social instincts or practices. So it's kind of like a rebellion type personality. But then, ironically, the second definition is not sociable, which is what I just said. To me, there's a little bit of a difference between antisocial and unsocial, or unsociable as they call it here. Unsociable is described as not enjoying or making an effort to behave sociably in the company of others. Yeah, I don't think that's accurate. Not conducive to friendly social relations. Here's a better one. Withdrawn pretty much describes it. I don't know. It's not liking to be around other people, not disposed to seek the company of others. It's not so much anti as like you're purposely like rebelling against socialness. It's just by nature, you just don't go that way. So I guess it's a more natural as opposed to like a forced, like antisocial. I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense right now. I feel like I've been awake for hours and hours, which I really haven't. But it's just been a long day considering everything that's happened today. So I'm a little bit out of it. But yeah, it was nice. So I've said this before in my other video, my Detroit one. Like, if you're someone like me and you're shy and kind of afraid to meet new people and just be around, like, because I'm really not adventurous at all. Like, I'm pretty fucking boring and almost borderline uptight, I guess. Uptight might be too harsh of a word, but almost, I guess. Like, it takes a certain situation and takes a little bit of time of warming up for me to, like, I don't know, come out of my shell or whatever. Or, I don't know. I'm just not very adventurous. So sometimes you just have to come out of your comfort zone. Like, if you feel like it. Like, honestly, I didn't feel like it for many years. But, you know, doing this YouTube thing and meeting people and doing the live shows really, really helped with my anxiety, which is actually partially why I started doing videos to begin with. Number one is to become slightly better, to speak better, to become well-spoken. I almost said better well-spoken. That's not right. Just like to speak better, like verbally. Like, I'm pretty good at getting my point across in text, like words, like on paper, but like verbalizing it, it's very difficult. It's still difficult, but I speak a lot better than I did when I first started doing YouTube, which I have actually deleted a lot of those old videos because they drove me nuts. I said a lot. I said like a lot. And public speaking, no matter what career you choose, and just really in life in general, is an important thing, you know, to be able to communicate better and things like that. And the second reason was for my anxiety being around people, which I never really ever planned to do like live shows or anything, because I think back when I started doing them, like, there really wasn't such a thing as the live shows or like group shows and shit like that. It wasn't a thing. So it was just like, I guess, just putting myself out there, because I don't really do that a lot in real life. So it was just like a step in the right direction of just not being as withdrawn, seclusive, and all that good stuff. So, but anyway, if you're like me and are shy and just afraid to go out because you're afraid that you're going to be awkward, or if you meet somebody that you've talked to, like, you know, vape wise online, it's going to be awkward or whatever. Because like I was really afraid to go to Detroit. You know, I was excited, but I was still like nervous, you know, like what if they don't like me? Like what if we get, like I meet them and it's just really weird? And it wasn't, like it really wasn't. I guess it depends on the people that you're going to meet. But like with these people, you know, all the people that I met in Detroit, the exception of a few, I'd been doing shows online, you know, so we're face to face for like months and months and months of time. And a lot of them I had spoken with, you know, outside of that, you know, like we do have relationships with each other outside of just doing shows. Some more than others, but, you know, we do talk to each other outside the show. And, you know, I do consider them my friends, like genuine, like friends, not just acquaintances that, you know, whatever, like real legit. So, it's just, they were that much better when I met them in person. And it was the same way with, you know, Addie Tooney. And, you know, while I don't know Dear Addie very well, he seems like a really cool dude too. And it was nice to get to meet him in person. Gaddy, I don't know. I didn't, you know, we were both pretty quiet, so I didn't really talk to him much. Plus, I think I was just so taken by Phil, but I think I've gushed about him enough. But yeah, it's just, you know, it was nice meeting them. And, you know, even if Phil wasn't there, which would have been, you know, a shame, but even if he wasn't there, because like I said, I had no idea he was going to be there, I still would have, you know, enjoyed the time because I got to meet Addie. Like I told Addie, I'm like, you know, I came basically to meet you. Like I didn't really know anybody else there. I mean, yeah, Dear Addie said he was going, but again, I don't know him that well. Like I wouldn't have driven down to Pennsylvania if he was the only one that was going to be there, because I just think that would have been awkward. But I came there because Addie said he was going and I wanted to meet him. So it's like, if nobody else went that I knew and I just got to meet him, to me, that's worth it. Like it was 2 hours away. Like it's not that far. So, yeah, so it was great. And it's a way to meet people, you know, and if you are trying to do something, you know, vape related as an actual career, whether you're like making juices or, you know, just doing YouTube is more of a serious thing. I don't really do mine as like a serious thing. I've thought about being a little bit more diligent with it, but and I probably should at least a little bit more than I have been. But it's just a hobby for me. Like it's just a fun thing for me. It's not anything I plan on getting anything from. Like, yeah, it's nice to get sent stuff every now and then. I don't get sent stuff that much. Usually it's just ELIQUID. But, you know, that's not what I'm doing this for. Like, if I never had anything sent to me, I'd still be doing shit. Like, I still buy shit. So it's not about that kind of stuff. It's not about making a name for myself, even though I think it's cool that some people know me. And it'd be great for more people to know who I am, just because I guess it's an ego thing. But I'm not really looking for anything outside of just, I guess, meeting people. Like this is a way for me to be somewhat social, because, you know, I have issues with that and I'm trying to work on that. And that's where these kinds of things can actually help you pretty greatly. But yeah, go to a vape event, you know, have fun. They are fun. Again, as I mentioned before, don't go into it thinking you're gonna get a bunch of free shit, because unless you like pretty much prostitute the shit out of yourself, like if you're like a reviewer or something and are like giving your card out and you got like a wingman or something, you're probably not gonna get anything. It's just how it is. Like they're not just like handing you shit like some people make it out to be. That's not how it is. Like if you're just someone walking around the showroom, they're not gonna like throw juice at you. I mean, I guess that did happen once where they were throwing juice at people, but that didn't turn out well because they were glass bottles. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, just go into it with good expectations. If you do happen to get free stuff, great, but don't have that expectation. Like it's pretty much, it's just like a convention, like any other convention. Like in Michigan, they had this convention center called the Gibraltar Trade Center. And it was basically just a bunch of people setting up and selling shit. It was like a bunch of random ass shit, but like, it's almost like kind of like a flea market, but like a little bit better quality stuff, because it's not, because I feel like a flea market's kind of like a garage sale, but like a garage sale orgy, whereas the trade show was more of like, it was just like a higher tier of product. But anyway, it's similar to that, where it's just a bunch of people setting up trying to sell their stuff and get their name out there, but more than likely you're not going to get free shit, so just don't expect that. But yeah, that's about it. I think I'm done rambling. I don't even know how long this is because it's privated and all that good stuff, but I'm just like I don't know. I'm gonna fangirl off camera. Bye.